my name is Dawn Matthews and welcome to our second lesson in our series on computer hardware components. In our previous lesson we learned about input, processing and output. And then for your task, we asked you to watch as Salai did some work on her computer and to identify where input, processing and output were taking place. But before we answer that question, let's watch the video again. First, Salai used the mouse to click on the icon and select the Excel program. This instruction was input. After she clicked on the icon, the program was found by the Central Processing Unit or CPU. The CPU then opened up the program so that Salai could use it. This was processing. Everything Salai could see on the screen was output, but that's not all. When Salai was typing on the keyboard, she was entering data, so this was also input. When she selected the range of cells she wanted to work with, that was also input. When she converted the selected numbers into a graph, that was processing. And when she printed out the document for safekeeping, that was output. Take a moment and make sure that you identified all those things correctly. If you're unsure of anything, ask your teacher. Now in this lesson, we're going to move on and look at some other aspects of the computer. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify input, processing and output devices, explain the difference between data and information, explain the difference between hardware and software, and what a computer is.
Hello Dawn, my word, these lessons are so cool. So what's on the menu for today?
Hello Salai. Today we're going to start off by thinking about the keyboard and mouse that you used when you created your graph. Those two pieces of equipment allowed you to enter data into the computer and give it instructions. Do you know what these are called?
They must be input devices.
That's right. The keyboard and the mouse are both input devices. The keyboard is used to type data or enter instructions into the computer. It's just like the keypad Archie used to type in his secret PIN code at the ATM, except that this keyboard has more letters and more keys. If you look at the layout of a standard keyboard, you will see that the letters are not laid out alphabetically. Instead, they are laid out in what we call the QWERTY formation. The QWERTY formation is actually a rather strange layout. It's harder to learn than an alphabetical layout, and typists must be used to use this layout.
So why do we use it?
Well, the answer to that question lies in the history of the mechanical typewriter. Back in 1873, the very first typewriter was built by the Remington Company, who also made guns and sewing machines. The early typewriters worked by pressing a key which pushed up an arm that hit into an inky ribbon. This left behind a mark on the paper which was shaped like a letter. It was the first mechanical writing machine in the world, but there was a problem.
What sort of problem?
Well, when you typed fast, the arms would knock into each other and become jammed.
So how did they solve this problem?
The designers took the most commonly used letters and spread them out over the whole keyboard. This slowed down the typist and gave each arm a chance to drop back down before the next arm came up.
It must have taken forever to type down a letter, and imagine trying to finish one of our projects in time.
With modern typewriters and computers, we no longer have a problem with mechanical arms that jam up, but we still use the old QWERTY keyboard layout because everyone is so used to it. That's keyboard, so now let's think about the other input device, the mouse. By moving the mouse, we can control the mouse pointer. For this reason, the mouse is often referred to as a pointing device. We can use the mouse to select or move items on the screen. By doing this, we input instructions to the computer to perform an action such as to open a program or select a text in a document and change its color.
So the keyboard and the mouse are both input devices because they allow you to put data or instructions into the computer. But what other input devices are there?
Well, there are many more input devices, but we will discuss them in detail in a later lesson.
So after you have inputted data into the computer, what then?
The data needs to be processed so that we can arrive at a result. Processing is when the computer takes the entered data and changes it to become meaningful information.
So that means that processing occurs when the computer solves a problem or performs a task.
That's correct. Now, do you remember the device used to do the processing?
I remember you did tell us, but I actually don't remember.
It is called a Central Processing Unit, or CPU. The CPU is found inside the computer case and will be discussed in more detail in a later lesson. It's also important to remember that the word data only refers to the input like numbers, letters, symbols and images that have not yet been processed. Once the data has been processed and organized by the CPU, it becomes information. Let's take another look at what happened when Salai worked on her project. First, she entered data in the form of rainfall figures for each month of the year. When the computer calculated the total for the year and displayed all this in the form of a graph, this was information.
So data is what goes in and information is what comes out.
That's right. Now, we need to see the information which the CPU has processed. This result is usually displayed on a monitor or printed out on a piece of paper. This is called output. Salai, can you tell me what the output device is on your computer?
Well, you must be the printer and you must be... Oh yes, the monitor.
Yes, the computer's monitor and the printer are both examples of an output device. So to recap, input devices such as mouses and keyboards allow the user to enter data or instructions into the computer. Processing is what changes raw data into organized and meaningful information. Output devices such as the screen and printer allow processed information to be displayed. Now, I hope you've got all that because we're going to move on to two very important new concepts that you need to understand. They are hardware and software. All the computer components that you can see and touch are referred to as hardware. Some examples of hardware are the mouse and the keyboard, which are used to select the program and type in the figures. The monitor and the printer, which allows us to see the results of the instructions. And the CPU, which
does the processing.
That's right. Now, hardware can be divided into external and internal components. External components are all the devices on the outside of the case, like the mouse, keyboard, printer, and monitor. The internal components are those which are inside the case, like the CPU. But remember, whether it is internal or external, all hardware can be seen or touched.
So if hardware is everything that can be seen or touched, what is software?
Well, software, on the other hand, is everything in the computer that you cannot touch. Remember that the CPU cannot think for itself and therefore needs a set of instructions to tell it what to do. A set of instructions that tells the computer what to do is called a program, and there are many different kinds of programs.
Like Excel that I use for my project.
Yes, like Excel. Software programs are stored in a special part of the computer called memory. But we will learn more about memory and software in later lessons. So Salai, do you want to go over what we have covered in today's lesson?
Oh yeah, we learned that all computer components that can be seen and touched are called hardware, and all the programs and instructions which tell a computer what to do are called software.
Good. And also about input devices, output devices, data and information. So now I think that we are finally ready to think about a definition for that amazing machine called a computer. But first, why don't we take to the streets and find out what people think a computer is?
A computer is an electronic device which is used to store and restore information.
A computer is a machine that was designed to help humans.
A computer is a device which you can store information in and process.
A computer, I don't know, it's a monitor, a keyboard, whatever, I don't know.
Nah, a computer is like an electronic device used by people to communicate with more people.
Well, there were some very interesting answers. What do you think are the special properties that make something a computer? Let's think about it together. We've learned that a computer needs to accept input, needs to process data, and needs to display the results of the processing. It also needs a set of instructions to tell it what to do. These instructions are stored in the computer's memory. A computer must also be able to store information for later use. We will discuss this storage in another lesson.
Wow, so a machine needs to do all of these things to be called a computer.
Correct. Now, here's your task for today. Draw and label a diagram that represents a computer system. Include input and output devices. Write a paragraph to explain differences between hardware and software. Write a short definition of a computer. Thanks for joining me for this lesson on hardware, and don't miss our next lesson when we will explore different types of computer systems. And also don't forget to visit our website for more information. Till then, goodbye.